In episode 8, after several weeks of dating, Davy and Dez are all kinds of horned up. The issue is their moms still don't know about them dating, so they really just have to flash each other bang me eyes all the time and make out when they can, which isn't all that often. Davy wants to take things to the next step somehow with Dez, but it's becoming impossible. Fabiola says what you need to do is get your mom out of the house and get some alone time. And that's when Davy gets a gift from one of her teachers. Tickets to Shen Yun, which is a Chinese dance show, and just the thing that Davy's looking for to get her mom away. During dinner that night, Davy gives her family the tickets, and it's really just her mom who's suspicious, but her mom also wants to go to the show. So Friday night, her mom, Kamala, her grandmother, even Raya, everybody's going to the show. And just to cover her tracks, Davy says that she's planning on hosting a game night, and even inviting over Dez. And yes, her mom knows that she has a crush on Dez, but she doesn't know that that crush is reciprocated. So with that, she invites her friends, but she also invites Dez and his private school friends. As she's talking to Fab about how great game night's going to be, Anissa comes in and gives Fabiola back her phone. She thought it was her graphing calculator. When Anissa runs out and goes to the class that she's supposed to be at, Davy asks Fab, how's that relationship going? Thinking that everything's going great, but it hasn't been. I mean, they're friends and everything's good, but they just haven't recaptured that spark that they had when they first kissed. She thought it was just new relationship jitters at the start, but it's been weeks. Davy starts trying to make Fab feel better, but then she gets an alert on her phone that the edible bra she ordered has arrived at her house, and she's really excited, and Fab is really grossed out. That night, all of her friends come over, dressed in their finest yellows, except Fab, she has a flannel shirt, and they're ready for an exciting night of brain cranker. Nothing says sexy quite like working out the mind. Davy's also lit a bunch of candles in her room to set the mood. Eventually, she's planning on sneaking up there with Dez and, doing fun stuff. A couple minutes later, there's a knock at the door, and it's Dez and his friends. Parker, who was also on the debate team that Davy beat, and Addison, who Fabiola is smitten with right away. I mean, she is in love, especially when Addison says that she loves Brain Cranker. Now, Dez and Addison, they're cool. Parker's kind of a tool. And when he finds out that there's no beer and this game night is legitimately just a game night, he starts getting antsy for actual action. In order to salvage the moment, Davy asks Eleanor to text Trent, using his fake ID, get them alcohol. But after a little bit, the alcohol still hasn't shown up, and Parker's addiction fix needs to be scratched. Unfortunately, Trent's fake ID got confiscated. And when Parker hears that, he goes, screw this, we gotta leave. There's a party up the street, we can head to that. Normally, Dez would stay, but as he tells Davy, Parker's parents are going through a divorce, and I kind of need to be there for him right now. But as Dez, Addison, and Parker head out the door, as soon as they open it, there's Paxton with a bag full of alcohol to save the day. Trent had called him up in a pinch and asked if he could help out. So Paxton just used his fake ID, bought the booze, and then headed over to Davy's place. Everybody starts filling cups with alcohol. Game of Brain Cranker starts, and everybody actually has a pretty good time. But the next game they decide to play is Celebrity, and as they're all writing names down on pieces of paper, Paxton jokes that his is going to be Emily Ratajkowski. And when Davy says, I don't think Phoebe would appreciate that, Paxton reveals that they broke up a couple weeks ago. She just didn't challenge him enough, and he's realizing that he wants to be challenged. Now, Dez has been suspicious of Paxton ever since he walked in the door. And when he hears his girlfriend talking to her ex about how he's newly single, he gets a little bit insecure and asks Paxton if he can go get a bowl so they can put all the names in it. But Eleanor stops him and says, no, I'll do it. She uses it as an excuse to head into the kitchen with Davy and tell her, Davy, you got to get up in your bedroom. This is your shot. They then walk out in the living room and they're playing that game. And Fab and Addison have quite the rapport already. They have a lot of common interests, but Davy doesn't really care about any of that. She just wants to get her boyfriend up in her bedroom. But as they're heading up there, they hear a commotion in the garage. And when they walk in, Parker is on the phone with one of his parents, swinging a tennis racket against a bunch of boxes. And Davy loses it. Because that tennis racket was one of her dad's prized possessions. It was one of John McEnroe's backup tennis rackets. So Davy goes to grab it from Parker, but he swings back, accidentally hits her, and that's when Davy kind of loses it on him, yelling at him that he shouldn't be walking around somebody else's house grabbing stuff. She takes the tennis racket up to her room and starts crying as Dez handles his friend. And Paxton saw Davy head up to her room, so Being a good friend, he goes to check on her. She explains what happened. He then notices all the candles and asks if she's about to do a seance. And she tells him that she was just trying to be romantic. And then he asks, why the hell didn't you do this for me? I mean, I like candles. I like lamp scarves. They then share a laugh, and he asks her if she wants to come downstairs because trivia's about to kick off, and he wants somebody who's not named Trent on his team. He has made her feel a lot better, so she stands up to leave, but she's got mascara running all down her eyes. She looks like a raccoon. So Paxton stops her and starts using his thumb to kind of clean it off a little bit, but they're caught by Dez. It looks pretty bad. Dez had Parker come up to apologize, but after he saw what he saw, Dez says, I think we're just going to head out. It's bad news for Davy, but it's also bad news for Fabiola. I mean, she is full-on in love with Addison after a few hours because they just have that much in common together. It's something that even Anissa couldn't ignore. Once Dez and his friends leave, Anissa turns to Fab and says, should we just be friends? I mean, I see how you're looking at Addison. And even though you might say there's nothing going on there, the way you're blushing makes me think there should be. They agree that while they love each other as friends, they're probably just not fit to be in a relationship together. After everybody clears out of the house and Davy cleans up, she texts Dez, are you okay? You left so quickly. But he doesn't respond. The next day, she goes to Dr. Ryan to talk about it, and she tells the whole story about what happened, but Dr. Ryan decides to focus on the tennis racket. Davy felt like a piece of crap when she saw that tennis racket because she felt like she allowed herself to actually have fun with Dez for so long that she forgot to be the sad girl that lost her dad. The fact that tennis racket was just sitting in the garage, she didn't even notice it. So she feels like a bad daughter. And through talking with Dr. Ryan, she's able to realize that she can proudly display that stuff and remember him every day. So right after the session, Davy heads home and hangs it on her wall. That night, she also goes and makes things good with Dez. Since he's not really texting her back, she goes to his house, and she explains that while everything looked bad with Paxton, it's not. They're just friends. And Dez tells her, deep down, I know I can trust you. I was just feeling extremely insecure. I mean, your ex is this handsome guy, and you're this super cool, beautiful girl. And Davy starts laughing because she's never been described by that. She finally comes clean with Dez that at her school, she is considered a nerd. But Dez stands by his initial analysis that Davy is amazing. And then the two start kissing, making out a little bit, and they get caught by Raya. And it's super awkward. And then finally, a quick update on Ben Gross and his electives. He decided to take art, but it's not going like his other classes. His other classes, he can just study and get an A. Art, not so much. So when the objective is to draw a pair, Ben thinks he did it, but the art teacher completely disagrees, and Ben gets a D-. He can't quite figure out why, and the teacher suggests that he has a tutor named Margot, who's the bad girl of the class, the artsy type. She's wearing a Twisted Sister shirt, and she looks like she can name probably 3 songs. While Ben pushes back on the idea that he needs a tutor, he also cannot have a D. So he begrudgingly meets with Margot. Now, Ben's pretty dismissive of art class. He thought it would be an easy A. But to Margot, art is life. She wants to be an artist when she grows up, so she doesn't look at it through the same eyes as Ben. As she's about to leave because she's so insulted by Ben's comments, Ben has to admit to her, I need help with this. I suck at it. And Margot tells him, you don't suck at it. You just don't put any expression into it. Through Margot's help, Ben is able to see what she's talking about. And when he hands in the assignment, the teacher sees a drastic change and gives him an A. But what Margot noticed was the fact that when he handed it in, he wasn't obsessed over what grade he got. In fact, he started walking away before the teacher even told him. Ben has to admit to Margot that he does feel more relaxed after the tutoring session. Art can kind of be therapeutic. The two start joking with each other in a very similar way that him and Davy joke with each other, which is basically nonstop insults. But in that good-natured playing where you can't really tell if the person is playing or if they're just being insulting kind of way. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.